I am doing very well, thank you. I'm gonna just turn this down a little bit. I think I had it about that. About that. Cool. I'm well, thank you. Doing what I can each and every day to make the best of every day. I'm glad you're well, and I'm glad I saw that Hammer was doing well in the chat as well. On the screen, anyway. I fixed the bot, so that's good. And hopefully, the music compared to me is okay. I'll have video up in a second. I'm just testing audio at the moment. But yeah, I'm just trying to get a read stream in while I can. And it seemed like a good time to do it. I hope to not really go over too much somebody else's streaming time, because they had even told me that they were doing a stream at a certain time. I'm like, I can fit in a stream before then, and then I have audio on bot issues, so that's terrific. But yeah, here we are. We're gonna continue on with this book. It's a very interesting book, especially given the times that we're in currently. And yeah, it seems like a good plan. So yeah, hopefully you can hear me okay. And hopefully the music's just lightly in the background. We don't want a lot of music in the background. There's the pitter patter of puppy paws. And there we go. And there's me. Can we move this a little bit? Yeah, there we go. Hey. Yeah. Like I said, I hope the audio is okay. You can hear me. You can lightly hear the music playing in the background. If not, I'll be devastated. So yeah, well, without further ado, we'll get continued with this small book. And as always, I will do my best to respond to the chatters, if there are any chatters, between the chapters. So yeah, let me just open up my can of water. That sounds normal. And delicious. Wow. Let the train go by. And yeah, here we go. Chapter 26. Beware of Owner. So how do we know? That's the big question, isn't it? How do we know if these are the end times? We know from the Gospel of Matthew that we won't ever really know, but we also know that there are signs. Signs that something is coming. Signs in the stars. Like from Luke 21:25. And there will be signs in the sun and moon and stars, and on earth distress of nations in perplexity because of the roaring of the sea and the waves, people fainting with fear, and with foreboding of what is coming on the world. Sakamoto's comet, global warming, could be signs, sure. We also know about plagues and moral decay and false prophets. But the point isn't that the end times are here, or even coming. It's that they could be. They always could be. And so we must be vigilant and take up the light of God to protect us. From God's Light Podcast, with Pastor Matthew Bird. July 3rd, God's Light Church, Burnsville, Indiana. His phone just kept dinging. Ding, 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 like a happy little bell. Emails, texts, new podcast subscribers. He started his podcast, God's Light, with Pastor Matthew Bird, just 7 days ago, and he already was up to how many subscribers now? Matthew checked the phone to see. His heart leapt like a dolphin jumping in the wake of a fast boat. 25,000 subscribers in just under a week. Astonishing. It was like he found himself connected to a larger digital congregation, one he knew existed but never felt he could be a part of. He was wrong. He spoke to them and they listened. God's light was shining far and wide, and he was helping to carry that torch into unforeseen places. He leaned back against the kitchen counter as he nursed a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with one hand and checked his phone with the other. The emails were nigh constant now. They ranged from email support, "We love that you're speaking truth to power about the great evil of the New World Order," to emails of protest, "Religion is a drug and you're its dealer," to invitations for speaking gigs, to invitations to appear on TV shows, radio shows, other podcasts. Just this morning, he'd even had an invitation to sit down with a speaker's agent, someone who could help him get speaking gigs, and make sure he got paid well for them. Not that being paid was the point, of course. No. But traveling took time, it took money, and the church certainly needed repairs. Thank you for the host, Oscar. And thanks, Hammer, for the host as well, if you're still here. Honey, he yelled. Autumn, check this out. He took one more bite of sandwich, then grabbed a swig of cold milk from a frosted glass before wandering through the house, looking for his wife. He had to show her his new numbers, his reach, as the term went. Honey, you have to see this. He checked upstairs. Nothing. He checked downstairs. No one. Maybe she'd gone shopping. The pantry was looking a little spare. What was today? Saturday? Gosh, since all this started, the days had slipped through his grip. That was a good thing, he told himself. As the saying went, the devil loved idle hands. His hands were no longer idle. Autumn! He yelled one more time. He thought to yell for Bo, but he knew Bo was probably at Ozarks again. He heard a car door open. He heard a car door outside open and close. There she was. She probably had gone to the store, he wagered, but he went outside onto the front porch. He saw it wasn't her, but when he went onto the front porch, he saw it wasn't her. It was a pickup truck, forest green, rusted out, cap on the back. Two men were getting out. One went around back and popped the gate down. The other slid a toolbox off the front passenger seat. Hey, Matthew said, chuckling nervously as he wandered over. Can I help you? The man by the front of the truck had messy, sandy hair and a few days' worth of beard growth. He looked young and strong. White t-shirt, jeans, a hammer hanging from a belt loop. The other man came from around the back with a sawhorse under one arm and a circular saw dangling from the other, a power cord trailing behind. The second man was long like a flagpole, with a bent nose and hair cut down to the scalp. Hey, preacher, said the sandy-haired one. And it was then that Matthew recognized both men. They'd come to last week's service. Last week's service was bigger than he'd ever anticipated. The room was bursting to seams like an overstuffed doll. It had filled up with people who had came not just from the towns around Burnsville, but from as far away as Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Louisville. He was suddenly bummed that he hadn't scheduled a service for tomorrow. This year, the 4th of July fell on a Sunday, and he wanted people to be with their families. But now he thought he could have made a heck of a speech and about the freedom God had granted to man. And suddenly he felt anxious that he'd wasted an opportunity. Would he lose momentum and as a result lose people? That was no good. Preacher? The sandy-haired man said. Matthew laughed in a self-effacing way. Sorry, I was lost in my own head for a moment. You were here last week? You were with Ozark? The two men nodded. The sandy-haired one said, We're with Mr. Stover, that's right, preacher. I'm Ty Cantrell and he's Billy Gibbons. Gibbons said nothing, just offering a small nod. Okay, great, Matthew said, still confused. I confess, I don't know what you're doing here. I apologize. No service this weekend. He gave an awkward look down at the toolbox and the sawhorse, realizing full well they weren't here for a service. Mr. Stover said the church needs some repairs, so yeah, after that, we'll put a new coat of paint on everything, but first, we gotta deal with the gutters, the window screens, the trim, some of the clapboard siding, all that stuff. Matthew was taken aback. Thank you, boys. I appreciate that. He suddenly felt strange calling the other man Gibbons a boy. Gibbons was probably Matthew's age, maybe even older. That man stared down at him with dark eyes. He just shrugged and started setting up the sawhorse and circular saw. Ty said, You heading over soon? Heading over? To the pig roast. The pig roast. Oh no. Today was the day. Stover was holding a pig roast. Said it was annual, something he did the Saturday before every 4th of July. Big picnic, and he invited Matthew, Autumn, and Bo to join. That's where Autumn was. She'd taken Bo over, he bet. Yeah, Matthew said, nodding vigorously. Yep, the pig roast. I'm gonna head over there in the next hour or so. Surreptitiously, he glanced at his watch. It wasn't even noon yet. Yet he wasn't running too late. So he wasn't running too late. With that, he bid the two men farewell and hurried to get ready. Stover said not to dress too fancy, so he went with jeans and a simple dress shirt, no tie, and headed out. Autumn must have taken their car, the Honda, to Stover's pig roast. It made Matthew more than a little resentful. Things for him were suddenly going very well indeed, and she didn't seem to want to share in any of it. He suspected that was her depression acting up, the demon, as he thought of it. But it didn't make it easy for him to deal with. Best he could do was hope she came around and found either a new drug or prayer to get her straight. He took their pickup, a beat-up silver Toyota from the last decade. Matthew used the GPS. Sorry. He took their pickup, a beat-up Toyota from the last decade. Silver Toyota from the train. He took their pickup, a beat-up silver Toyota from the last decade. Matthew used the GPS to get him out there. He'd never been and didn't go that way all too often. Stover's house and junkyard were on the same property down at Echo Lake, about 15 miles as the crow flew. Down in this direction of the standard farm grid, the roads got a little bendier. They wound around through pockets of trees and ponds, all of it overgrown and wild. Ivy grew up over old forgotten farm equipment as raccoons scuttled through the understory. Along the way, he saw lots of American flags, plus a scattered helping of Don't Tread on Me and the Confederate flag too. His GPS told him the place was up ahead. Sure enough, he saw a simple sign, 2 wooden posts and an aluminum sheet moored between them. On it, someone had painted the simple black block letters, Stover Junk and Salvage. The way forward was a gravel drive through a mess of trees. You couldn't see the house or the salvage yard from the road. Nor was the way open. A gate sat closed across it, chained shut. He eased the pickup forward, thinking, well, what now? That's when someone emerged from the tall grasses alongside. A fellow on a button-down plaid shirt with a John Deere hat ran up, waving. He called over, "You here for the roast?" Matthew rolled down his window. "I am, if that's all right." "You the preacher?" "Faster, yes." "Come on in, then." He opened the padlock, chaining the gate shut, then jawed it open. Matthew waved and pulled forward. The man shut and locked the gate behind him with a clank and rattle. The drive down was long, longer than Matthew expected anyway. He pulled the pickup through copses of old trees and rusted machinery from eras past. He saw through the undergrowth various single and double-wide trailers, poking up through the green like the decrepit white of cemetery headstones. Trails cross-cut throughout. He spied a fishing pond, a few deer stands for hunting, a mess of no trespassing zones, including repeated instances of "to hell with the dog, beware of owner." Then the driveway branched off. A painted wooden sign pointed west toward junkyard. A second east toward house. House it was. As the truck juddered across lumps and pits and gravel, he felt a shock as the path softened. The road became paved, not asphalt, but pavers of dark brick. And ahead, something emerged from the forest. It was a sprawling estate. Top of the hill stood a massive house. It looked like the love child of a hunting cabin and a proper mansion. Rooms upon rooms, tall windows cut through stacked logs, a big red door in the dead center of the middle A-frame chalet structure. All of it surrounded by intricate landscaping where butterflies flitted about. He eased up the driveway past an octagonal log gazebo overlooking a pond and a fountain. Kids played inside the gazebo, chasing one another with sticks, using them like swords and rifles. At the roundabout near the house, a young man in khakis and a red button-down approached and asked for his keys. Valet, Matthew thought. Ozark Stover had valet parking at his house. Well, I'll be damned. All this time, he'd been thinking that Stover was poor, or something near to it. Meanwhile, Matthew was the poor one. He didn't have a house like that. He'd never have a house like that. He didn't have a house like this. He'd never have a house like this. Would he? Matthew followed his nose. The smell of wood smoke and grilled meat pulled him along like he was a fish on a line. Out back, the estate only exploded outward. He saw ruggedized golf carts and a massive 3-tier back deck, all preceding a long house full of tables and chairs, a smoker, a grill, a pool, a spring house, and creek. And the people. My word, look at them all. He thought. This was a proper shindig, the likes of which he had never seen and would never throw. Hundreds of people, all of them some version of casually fancy. They milled about with drinks in their hands and plates of hors d'oeuvres, neatly and efficiently refreshed by roving waiters and waitresses. He suddenly had a plate of food in his hand, too, and a beer bottle. Sun King Pale Ale, cold and refreshing. But an old anxiety resurfaced in him. It went all the way back to high school, maybe junior high. That feeling of going into a crowded room and knowing no one. You had no power. You had no clue. They were all connected to one another, chatting and laughing and debating, but you, well, you're an outsider. Trespasser, stowaway, imposter. It was an absurd fear, because his job was literally to be a public speaker, but this was different. There he had the power, which was itself the power of God. Here, he had none. And then, like that, it all changed. Faces turned as he approached, eyes lit up. Next thing he knew, he was surrounded by people. They shook his hand, they wanted to bend his ear, a circle would come and chat him up, then one by one, slowly but surely, they'd be replaced by a new bunch of folks. None of this was what he expected. He did not know what he thought. He did not know who he thought would attend an Ozark Stover pig roast, but he surely did not anticipate sheriffs, state senators, local CEOs and CFOs, journalists, even a few local celebrities like race car drivers and news personalities. Matthew was over the moon meeting all these people. Doubly so because they seemed to be over the moon meeting him. And these people, they all want to talk about the sleepwalkers. Some approached Matthew moon-eyed and curious, some giddily anxious about the walkers. Others still thought they should be quarantined, locked away, or, as one state senator said honestly, dealt with. It was an hour before Matthew was able to extract himself, his fingers sticky with BBQ sauce, his mouth tingling with the bitter citrus tang of the ale. He had the chance to ask, finally, where he might find Ozark Stover. A few folks didn't know, but eventually he found someone who did. An avuncular gent named Roger Green, who taught hunter safety for the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources. He said, listen close, you can hear him. Matthew gave a quizzical look at that, but he said, okay, I'll bite. Then he turned his head to listen. There in the distance, over the end of the crowd. I hear it, he said. Firecrackers? Gun range. Stover's down at the backstop firing some off. I was just about to grab a cart and drive down. Want to come with me? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to be a bother. He'll want to see you, Roger said. Come on, let's ride. On the way down, Roger asked, how do you know Ozzy? The cart had big beefy tires and made easy work of the ruts in the pathway that carved between the trees and other over ditches. Matthew explained, my son's been working here at the junkyard since winter. Your son's Bo? That's him. Nice kid, Roger said. Matthew tried to read into that. He didn't say smart kid, didn't say good kid, just nice. You're being paranoid, Matt. Roger continued with, Ozzy's a bit of a handful, huh? He's a real character, no doubt. Ahead of them, a couple of bob-white quail darted in front of the cart, squabbling as they went from underbrush to underbrush. I hope you're being careful, Roger said. I'm sorry, I don't follow. Roger stopped the cart suddenly. Matthew's head whipped forward. From here, the gunfire was loud. They weren't far now, from where people were shooting. Shots came in quick succession. Pop, 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 pop. I'm just saying that Ozzy is serious business. You get in with him, you'd best be serious too. You can't half-ass it. You can't flirt a little and go on your merry way. Being in with Ozzy is like marriage. Deeper than that even. It's as deep as the grave. You follow me? This sounds suspiciously like a warning. Isn't he your friend? He is, and a good one. We go down there now and I tell him you disrespected me. He'll pull your head off the way you might pop a tick off a dog. But that's my point. He'll do that, but he'd ask me to do the same. And would you? Bet your narrow ass I would, Pastor Matt. At that, he nodded. I think I'm good, thank you. That's all I need to hear. Roger slammed the accelerator, and the golf cart jumped again like a rabbit that got a thistle whipped up its ass. The backstop was a mountain of dirt and clay at the end of a short field. Matthew wasn't great at sussing out distances, but he guessed this was around 150 yards out. The side of the mound, the side facing them, was dug out and filled in with a wall of thick wooden railroad ties riddled with bullet holes. A human-shaped target hung there, nailed to the flat side of those railroad ties. Up at the end of the field was a wooden shooting bench with a gun rest. Looked custom. Also had a couple of long tables sitting out under tents. And not far away was a small, coagulated metal shed. They were between rounds by the look of it. Stover was handing a boxy pistol off to another man, a rangy man with a coyote's lean, his greasy blonde hair tucked behind tall ears. Next to him was another familiar face, Hiram Golden. As Stover handed off the pistol, his face underwent a tectonic shift. A smile cracked his face in half like an earthquake. He pulled off a pair of yellow-lensed shooting glasses and waved a big mitt at them. There they are, come on down, fellas. Roger pulled the cart up. He gave one last look to Matthew like, you're in it now, Pastor Matt. Suddenly, he was damn near wrenched out of the cart by Stover's massive hands. The big man pulled him into a chest-collapsing hug. Preacher, good to see you. Thanks for coming. A pleasure, Ozark. A real pleasure. He tried desperately not to wheeze as he extracted from the hug. I had no idea you had such a beautiful place out here. A mischievous spark glinted in Stover's eye. I see. He thought I was just some country rube living out here in some redneck shantytown. No, It's all right, Preacher. I don't mind. I don't put on airs. I don't mind it if people underestimate me a little bit. Matthew felt red in the cheeks. I apologize if I seem to do that, though. I should be a better man. Preacher, we could all be better men. You can call me Matthew, or Matt. Nah, Preacher's good. I like the sound of it, like a title and a nickname, all wrapped up into one. You met Roger, I see, and you know Hiram. Hiram gave a nod, a smile as he and Matthew shook hands. And over here, this is my right-hand man, Danny Gibbons. Gibbons, Matthew repeated, shaking his hand next. Danny rolled his knuckles a little bit, eliciting a slight wince of pain. Is Billy your brother? I just met him. Danny gave a curt nod, but it was Stover who answered. Danny and Billy are brothers, that's right. I forgot Billy was at your place today. Thank you for that, by the way. I can't express how... Stover waved him off. Stow it, Preacher. You're doing the Lord's work, so we might as well do some work for you. Now, good news is, you're here just in time, because we're about to bring out the big guns. Danny went over to one of the tables, lifted a sheet there, exposed about 10 different weapons, rifles by the look of them. Though Matthew was no expert, and he supposed some of them could be, shotguns? This Gibbons brother pulled out a mean-looking rifle, matte black, military style. Matthew felt suddenly nervous just looking at it, his pulse racing, his palms sweating faster than the rest of them. He'd never fired a weapon before. Gonna join us, Preacher? Pop off a few rounds? Shred some paper? Oh, I don't know, he said, laughing. I'm not... I've never done that. Stover's grin grew wider into a giddy jack-o'-lantern leer. Then you're going to like this, Preacher. This is the skirmish light from POF, Patriot Ordnance Factory, chambered for 223 Remington. It's rocking a triple port muzzle brake and a fluted barrel. It's got zero trigger creep and no more recoil than a soft pat on the shoulder. Shooting one of these is dreamy, Preacher. Just easy as the breeze. It's like they used to say about those potato chips, Pringles, I think. Once you pop, you just can't stop. Hiram laughed suddenly. My last wife was like that. I still don't know, Matthew said, holding up both hands. I'm not sure a church pastor should be down here with weapons of war. Suddenly, Stover was at his side, hand out like he was framing an imaginary picture, one he immediately began to describe. Imagine it, Preacher. The devil is loose upon the land, his servitors marching on your Christian settlement. They're gonna come. They're gonna take what's yours, gonna steal your women and dash open the kids' skulls with rocks, knocking their brains right out of their little heads. They come up over the ridge, but you have one of these babies, he pointed the weapon in Danny's hand, and suddenly you realize God gave you this. God works through the hands of men, and men built that beautiful piece of blue-black steel, a machine gifted with the ability to knock down Satan's minions like they're cans on a fence. Stover then went, grabbed the rifle, held it out for Matthew. It really is something, isn't it? His hand reached for it, and then Stover pulled away. Not yet, Preacher. First, we need some ammo, and, looks like it's right on time. He waved over to another golf cart driving down. Matthew's heart sank. His son was driving that cart. Bo, he said in a small voice. From the back of the golf cart, the boy removed 2 green metal boxes, ammo boxes, like from war. Matthew realized. He looked at his father with a sheepish face. A bit of anger there, too. The pastor knew it well enough to spot it on sight. I don't think he should really be here for this, Matthew said. It was like he just doused everything in sour milk. Everyone in sour milk. They turned toward him collectively, giving him a puzzled look. It's all right, Stover said. He's down here all the time with us. And he discharges those weapons? He discharges those weapons, Matthew said, his heart pounding his chest. A big part of him wanted to run from this. Just let it be what it will be. And not stir up any acrimony. But this was his son. He had to say something, didn't he? Listen to you, Stover said, his voice going lower into a growl. Discharge those weapons. He shoots, he hits. He's good at it, Stover leered. Be proud of him. The stare stuck through him. He turned to his son. Bo, take the cart. Go back up to the house. No more guns. Bo looked at Stover as if for confirmation. The big man stood there like a landslide, ready to roar down on a mountain. His jaw worked like he was chewing on something. Then he smiled and said to Bo, While never taking his eyes off Matthew, Bo, listen to your father. Go on, get the hell back to the house. Don't stand there gawking at me. You didn't come from my blood. It was then that Roger stepped in. If I may say something, I mean. Stover nodded. Matthew did too. Pastor Matt, you're not a hunter, I take it. No, I've never been. But surely you know who do hunt in your congregation? Yes, of course. Me, I came out hunting. It's a venerable tradition where I'm from. I grew up closer to Wabash, you see. And we always hunted, even from an early age. Me and my brother Merle, my sister May, and we did it not for the trophies, but for the meat, the skins, the tallow. Shit, my grandmother used to make blood sausages from the deer blood. And Daddy, well, he set up a nice, cool part of our cellar where he could age venison. And oh man, Roger kissed his fingers. It was sublime. Best steaks he ever had. Now, something like that would go for twice what you pay for beef. Sounds like you had something special growing up. I did. I really did. Now, I take your point about all this, with all that news of school shootings and the like, and then Ozzy here brings out not just a nice hunting rifle, but something that looks like you'd see it in a soldier's hand out there in Afghanistan or some other hellhole country. I see your problem, and I'm with you. A little. I don't take to those black rifles. You give me a good old Remington 17700, and I don't need a clip of 50 rounds to take out a buck or knock the shit out of a feral pig. Some of these ammosexuals, no offense, Ozzy, and here, some of these ammosexuals, no offense, Ozzy, and here the big man just shrugged it off, showing just how much leeway Roger had to say these things. These ammosexuals will blow 200 rounds on target practice like they're eating popcorn, and I see that looking a little strange to you. You're not wrong, Matthew said, still feeling the unmerciful stares of Hiram, Danny, and Ozark Stover, all of whom he felt closing in on them like they were a pack of wolves. Meanwhile, Bo stood off to the side, looking confused and angry. Here's what I'll offer you. I'll take you and Bo out. We'll do some proper hunter safety. Maybe get both of you a license at the end of it. I'll get you feeling more comfortable with a gun, and get you feeling more comfortable seeing him with a gun too. Until then, he'll stay away from firearms. How's that sound? That sounds just fine, Matthew said. He wasn't sure that it did or didn't, but he knew a compromise when he heard one. A small voice inside him asked why he was considering compromising on the parenting of his child, but at the same time, it was hard to deny Roger's reasoning and offer. I'll take you up on that. Dad, Bo said angrily, storming down, you can't do this. I don't want to wait. Hey, Stover said, voice going off like dynamite down in a mine. Bo froze up. Your daddy decided what's what. Now you're going to keep coming back here and working for me? You listen to him? Go on. Take the cart back. The boy had nothing else to say. Go on, Matthew said, but his son was already walking away. Everyone stayed silent as they watched the boy mount the cart and take it back up through the woods. With that, Stover snarled a happy chuckle. Gentlemen, let's shoot. They gave him ear protectors. Matthew stared down the barrel as the gun rest cradled the front end of the skirmish rifle. No scope on this one. They said to just use the front sights, so he did, staring down that long steel channel, blinking away sweat, and then he pulled the trigger and expected it to kick like a horse. But Stover was right. It felt like a soft push. With every trigger pull, the gun tugged and sent another injection of lead toward the target. Pop, 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 pop. One round after the next, bullets kicking off, the air stung with the scent of what smelled like burning balloons. Stover told him it was a 30-round magazine, and after every shot they applauded him louder, and he could hear the big man bellowing, "Keep going, empty it, goddammit!" And so Matthew kept pulling the trigger. Pop, pop, pop. Until on the 31st pull, the trigger just went click. When he was done, Stover and Hiram were whooping with laughter and applause. They pulled the rifle out of his hand and mussed his hair. Stover clapped him so hard on the back he thought some of his teeth might be knocked out. Hiram sidled up to him and said in his ear, "Cherry Pop, feels like nothing else. A gun like that in your hand, that power, mercy." Ozark told Danny to go get the target, see how they did. The tall man walked off, loping like a lazy hound, and snatched the target with a swiping arm, spring-loaded with impatience. And then he made the long and lazy journey back. Stover harangued him. "Faster, Danny, come on, put a little mustard on those dogs." Finally, he brought the target back. Matthew saw now the target itself was just a black outline, but at the head, someone had printed out a black and white photo. It was the face of President Nora Hunt. The target was riddled with holes, about 15 of them, all outside the actual outline of the target itself. "Looks like you missed the bitch," Stover said, clucking his tongue. "Oh well, we'll get her next time." I'm not comfortable with this, Matthew thought. A special kind of shame picked at him. The pinching feeling inside him made all the worse by the fact that he not only didn't hit a darn thing, but most of his shots didn't even hit the paper. Then Hiram said, looky here. He lifted the paper and got behind it, poking his pinky through. It emerged like an earthworm from dirt, right through President Hunt's ear. Wiggle, wiggle. Hell, preacher, Stover said. You hit her after all. Look at that. Only took off her ear, sure, but maybe that'll make her stand up and listen harder with the other one. He winked. Matthew in a low voice asked, This is all just fun and games, right? Of course it is, preacher. Of course it is. Come on, let's go pull the pig out of the ground. Time to eat. End of chapter 26. Yay! Let's see what I missed. Oh, Oscar, don't worry about throwing me off. I just wanted to make sure. I was just checking every now and then because I wasn't sure. Thanks for the host rating. I was just checking every now and then because I wasn't sure, like, precisely if the sound levels were okay. So I was looking just a little bit to see if they were okay. So it's all good. Thanks for shouting out Oscar, Riddy, and hello, Riddy, surreptitiously. Yeah, that's the word I had trouble pronouncing. It just looked more intimidating than it actually was. Crowded room, social distancing. Dealt with. Meaning dealt some cards for a game of poker. Uh-huh. You get it. Lurks from work with no sound. Oh, I'm sorry, Anna. Thanks for shouting out, Anna. Another alert. Sorry you can't hear. Can you turn on CC? Hey, really? I actually know if CC can be turned down if the stream doesn't set it. I never set it up. That sounds like effort. And like I put any effort into my streams. Who does that? Besides, like, everybody I know. Not seeing anything would have been cool, though. Dang. Hey, Spartan. The character just growled, if that helps. How's it going, Spartan? Good to see you. Thanks for popping by. Ooh, fun. Yes, indeedy. Rolleth. It was sublime. It was exquisite. Hope day's gone well for everyone. Yeah, it's going alright. Thank you. Yeah, I know. It happens every time I read. Soldiers. I said the same word twice. Stupid. I hope that you've enjoyed your nap. Get him, Taylor. I'm dog sitting and Taylor the dog must see something because she's darting back and forth between the two windows. Is it Riddy running out in front of the house? Because that's what happens, at least with my puppy. She added a third window to the rounds. It was glorious. I'm glad it was glorious. Thanks for the claps and the host. Sound is good. Effort is overrated, probably. Thank you for exquisite. Wish you could hear the sound being good. Growlith. We did it. I thought so. Or at least the place she's house sitting at or dog sitting at. I don't know if she's at home or if she's house sitting while dog sitting. I don't know. Oh well. So yeah, we're gonna keep on going because I don't want to really go over too much on place of being. Yeah. Dat. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep chugging right along because I know HS is gonna stream in about an hour, I think. I don't want to go over that too much, but I also want to get into the 40 to 50 pages I normally get in. So let's move on to chapter 27. Go for it. I will. Chapter 27. Homeland Security. A couple tweets to read out loud. They tried everything to move those walkers. They tried blockades, fire, loud noises, digging trenches, and shit. At randompedo88. Threaded tweets. But you know what they haven't tried yet? Me with a bump stock AR-15 going pop, pop, pop like the Call of Duty. Put them bitches down or walk them into an oven. At RandomPedo88 threaded tweets. Kill them or they kill us. That's how it always is. At RandomPedo88. Why would you choose it as your username? 3,127 replies, 4,298 retweets, 9,788 likes. July 3rd. Lone Tree, Iowa. The flock marched through fields of corn and soy, past ambling cows and massive circular bales of hay. They looked like they could be used to seal up some strange Midwest Messiah's tomb. By now, the flock, the walkers themselves, numbered 325. With them came the shepherds, over 100, and with them came more state troopers, who traded off to new troopers every time they crossed the border to a different state. Excuse me. And a brand new presence in the form of Homeland Security. They were hard to avoid now. The theft of the human remains and the discovery of the package that had been sent to Nessie Stewart made it clear that it was at least in part a problem for law enforcement. The FBI conducted their investigation outside the flock. And with the flock, well, that meant Homeland Security, or HomeSec. Meeting time. Another wheel-spinning meeting where they would attempt to figure out how to move forward, but where no progress was made as everyone jockeyed for a position. In the CDC trailer sat Benji, Sadie, Cassie, Tran, and an iPad on a metal compass stand that featured Loretta Shostak commenting in on video. Sitting there too was the man who HomeSec brought on to oversee the agency's dealings, a liaison named Dale Wayland. Wayland looked like an aging quarterback, his body in the midst of that all-too-easy transition from hard muscle to marshmallowy fat. Relatable. Well, the latter part anyway. They called him the warden, the way he attended to the whole group like they were all his prisoners. Wayland sat in his chair like a man comfortable in his discomfort. He eased backward, arms folded across his chest, eyeing up everyone who sat literally across from him at the table. Benji thought of him as the enemy, though maybe that wasn't fair. It was biased and unhelpful. Just the same, he assumed Wayland thought of them the very same way. I'm just gonna put this out there, Wayland said, before we get into some long-winded discussion like we do here day after day after day. It's over, or will be soon. Benji and the others shared a look. Loretta said nothing, and that was as telling as anything. I don't follow, Benji said, gritting his teeth. Even though he feared he followed it quite well, what is over exactly? Wayland sighed in a way that said, do I really have to do this song and dance? This, you, the CDC's EIS control over this operation. It's not an operation, Cassie hissed. It's a disease. Is it? Doesn't seem that way to me, Miss Tran. To me, this looks like an attack on American people, on American soil. There are no other flocks, globally, it's just us here. Those people and those people out there are weapons, human bombs. Benji stiffened. We know what you think, and it matters little how it looks to you, Dale. It matters how it looks to science. No, it matters how it looks to the people, and how they look to the president. And bad news, Banjo. That was what Wayland called him sometimes, Banjo. The nerve of the prick. She's right there, signing off on HomeSec control of this operation. A chill passed among them. Sadie said, why? Even before Wayland explained it, Benji already knew what he was going to say, and so he said it first. Because she's under siege, Benji answered. Wayland nodded. Yepers, politically, Creel is snapping at her heels. This flock, as you call it, is a political weak point. It's a fucking liability, and Creel is going to keep sticking his spear right in that tender spot. Again and again. She's bleeding her poll numbers. Ed Creel is a capitalist maniac, Benji said. That's your opinion, one not necessarily shared by voters. He's starting to sway the American people. You see his latest ad? Benji nodded. In that advertisement, Creel appeared before a shitty American flag graphic, and along the stars and stripes someone had animated people walking in a straight line, a crude summation of the walking flock. As Creel went on and on about dangers to America, both foreign and domestic, the walkers exploded one by one, leaving ragged holes vented in the fabric of the flag. Until there was nothing left but threads, Creel never even mentioned the walkers. He didn't have to. He was on CNN this morning, kept hitting Hunt on her. His words, though... He was on CNN this morning, kept hitting Hunt on his words, though I don't agree with them, half-hearted, half-assed, half-a-brain policy regarding the sleepwalkers. He went on to say if he was elected, he'd force a mandatory quarantine of the flock, and if that didn't work, he'd drive them all into the ocean. And I quote, like pigs. Like pigs, a not too subtle nod to the evangelicals. Benji suspected. Creel was by all evidence no kind of Christian, though he played at being one to get votes and campaign contributions. Here it seemed like he was leaning on the story in the Gospel of Matthew where Jesus exorcised a legion of demons and cast their bodies into pigs, and then the pigs rushed into the water of a nearby lake, drowning themselves. The quarantine won't work, Cassie stressed. I knew it was going to happen. Bork, 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 bork. Oh no, it's fine. Running by the back this time. Clever girl. Okay, sorry. And nobody cares, Wayland countered. Come on, people don't care about workable solutions. Ultimately, they just want people with an answer. Right now, Creel has an answer. As brutal and as possible as it is, Hunt looks like she has no answer. She's been sitting on her hands. Is that because she's playing politics? Maybe. Is it because this is a complicated situation that requires careful strategizing? Maybe. Maybe it's both those things. Does it fucking matter? Not really. So politics is what this is all about, Benji asked. It's the day before Independence Day. You're gonna pull political chicanery on a holiday? Chicanery, listen you, Dr. Ray, forgive me, but politics is what it's always about. You can't be this naive. Politics drives the buses, tells the bus where to go, who to pick up, whether or not it should run over a line of kids crossing the road, and tomorrow being the holiday means we hit the news cycle tonight. Leave people feeling a little better during their day off. Give them some comfort as they shovel hot dogs and dump beer into their mouths. That's not part of the political job, to give comfort. That's part of the political job, to give comfort. Not to do the right thing, Benji thought, but to give comfort, even when it wasn't appropriate to do so. The way the man spoke about Americans with such disregard rankled Benji. Shovel hot dogs, dump beer. He really did see them as animals to be led around by the nose. Again, Benji's faith in the system shuddered and seized. What now? Cassie said. Wayland finally sat up, leaned forward. Time is it? Noon? I'm guessing we'll see her announcement to time out with the afternoon news cycle. She's meeting with Flores and Souls at the very moment to hash out details. Souls being Walter Souls, head of Homeland Security. My understanding, and my recommendation, is that EIS will be taken off. Lord objected. We at least want ORT back. Robbie Taylor is in Africa, but we can have him back. The CDC... Good job, puppy. Good job, puppy. The CDC had its shot, Wayland said. I'm not inclined to give you another. You can take that up with someone else, but it won't be part of my recommendation. Lorda looked pissed. Benji wanted her to growl, get mad, swing for the fences. Twix took care of that. Be the immovable object she had always been, but immovable as her reputation was, it didn't change the fact that she had a job to do. And that job was at the mercy of superiors who did not always share her expertise in matters. Best deal I'll cut, Wayland continued, is that we will consult with you about new quarantine procedures. Otherwise, the presence that will accompany the flock will be purely military, National Guard or Army, and the shepherds will be ejected and kept away as their destabilizing presence of protest. Why military? Sadie asked. Well, why not police? We already have some state trooper presence. Because the flock constantly crosses state lines, Benji said, explaining it before Dale could. Am I right? Dale nodded. Bingo, banjo. Besides, you want soldiers on this. Cops are... Listen, we work with cops, but a lot of these guys are a little trigger happy these days. Military guys are rock solid. They're pros. These are guys who have been to Fallujah, Kandahar. They can hack this. This is a mistake, Benji protested. I apologize if I named that city and country incorrectly. Benji protested, "It's setting a dangerous precedent as to how we handle future epidemics and outbreaks." We're lucky this doesn't seem to be an outbreak. If that were the case, Hunt's laxity on asserting our authority here would mean we'd all have whatever diarrhea, plague, or monkey flu was in play. Wayland sighed. I get it. You think I'm the bad guy here. I appreciate that. Nobody wants to be me. Nobody wants to be the asshole who has to make the hard decisions. Benji wasn't so sure about that. Wayland seemed all too comfortable in his position. The man was glad to be the particular asshole he was. Dale continued, "Look at it this way. Every one of us is a hammer in search of a nail. We each have our jobs, our organizations, our skill sets. You find and investigate disease, so to you, this is a disease. But my job is to protect the homeland from threats inside and out. And those walkers, they're a threat. Maybe they don't mean to be, maybe they do, but each one of them is gone. Whoosh, wiped." He passed the flat of his hand in front of his eyes like he was blanking a slate. "They're not in there anymore, and what's replaced them is something we don't understand, something that can't be cut, that won't bleed, something that pops like a cork as soon as you apply a little pressure. What ends if they all go off at once, and how big will the flock get before that happens? Day by day, you get another dozen mummies joining the mummy parade. How long will that go, do you figure? Another 100, 3, 5, 1,000? Maybe it keeps going and going until we get a small city's worth of walkers gumming up everything, blocking roads, ready to blow like a bunker buster bomb of human meat. People want something done, so finally Hunt's doing something." "They're not weapons," Benji asserted. "They are people." "Terrorists are people too. Dictators and despots and enemy soldiers. They're all people, pal. And they're still dangerous as hell. You're out of line. And you're out of a job, or it will be soon enough." "Loretta," Benji said, turning his plate to the video screen. "This is what it is," she said, her voice stern. "I've done what I can, and I will continue to push, but we continue to search for evidence of a pathogen and find nothing. At the base level, that means our role here is increasingly in question, and this continues to look more and more like a situation of national security. Though the origin of this may be political, that doesn't change our overall ineffectiveness to understand this phenomenon, or to put a halt to it." Finally she said, "I'm sorry, Benjamin." And that, it seemed, was that. Benji was naive. He knew that. Despite years of swimming upstream against the political current, he believed ultimately in progress, and science, and forward momentum, even if it was gained by battling for inches rather than running for miles. Every foodborne pathogen, every theoretical outbreak, every time there was a fear of a zoonotic jump, that meant once more navigating the serpent-filled waters of government and bureaucracy. No company wanted to be investigated for accidentally infecting its customers. No country or town wanted the misfortune of being labeled as the place Ebola showed up, or Zika, or dengue. But ultimately, always and forever, the alternative was worse, so the bureaucracy inevitably yielded. The briar of red tape burned away, and Benji was allowed to do his job. But that had changed, hadn't it? Is that why he did what he did at Longacre? Because he saw that change coming? Or was he just telling himself that to make himself feel better? Whatever the case was, Loretta and Dale Wayland were not entirely incorrect in their assessments. They had no information except the kind that suggested something larger and more sinister was ongoing. They had little evidence of a pathogen. They had no guarantee that the CDC's place here, their purpose, was even earned. Outside the trailer now, Benji said as much to Sadie and Cassie as they stared out toward the coming flock. "Maybe they're right," he said. "We don't know anything." Cassie scowled. "Fuck that noise, dude. I believe that what we're looking at here is ours to own and ours to solve. Men with guns won't solve it. Men with guns don't solve shit." "Tell that to the men with guns," Benji said. "We need proof," Sadie said. "Swiftly. Something that will change the game. That will show the president that you must be kept on with the flock. If all is as you say it is, and I believe you, then there has to be some way forward, and we haven't thought of yet." "We have explored and expended our tools, sadly. So we look outside the toolbox, so to speak. If I knew of another tool set, I would explore it." Cassie said, "Well, what's on the fringes right now? Is there some hot new technology we haven't yet looked to? There must be something we aren't seeing. Some diagnostic tool, some genius with a Kickstarter, some bleeding-edge tech you hear about in Wired. That's it, Sadie said suddenly. Benix Voyager is the parent company of Firesight. It's a nanotechnology firm. Fairly boutique, but they have found ways of using nanoparticles and nanodevices to diagnose certain cancers, brain diseases, and gastrointestinal disorders. I'm not precisely familiar with the details, but what if... She kept talking, but Benji stopped hearing her. His knees nearly buckled as the realization hit him. Back when Robbie showed him what had happened to the cells inside Clade Behrman's body, it reminded him of something. He just couldn't pinpoint what it was. Now he knew. He interrupted Sadie, apologizing for doing so, and then asked him to join him back in the trailer. Wayland had already gone, but the techs had not yet returned, having cleared out for the meeting. Benji took out the black phone and summoned Black Swan with a command of his voice. Pointing the projector at the wall, he asked Black Swan, I'd like to see images from IBM research archives, probably from, let's see, 2011, maybe 2012. They did a joint study with the Institute of Bioengineering out of Singapore on defeating MRSA, Staphylococcus aureus. Over the last decade, the number of antibiotic-resistant infections had gone up considerably, over 300% by this point. They were at the end of the new antibiotics, and worse, the pharmaceutical industry did not consider antibiotic treatment to be particularly profitable. Certainly not as profitable as cancer treatments, antidepressants, or pills to counter erectile dysfunction. So the search for new antibiotics had stalled, leaving room for new companies to find inventive ways of defeating bacteria that had become effectively bulletproof when it came to the usual antibiotics. Black Swan projected an image. Waiting for a train. There goes the train. Black Swan projected an image. There on the wall was a photo of a slide magnified to 100 nanometers. In it, a series of MRSA bacteria floated around the edges like black blood-filled balloons. But the ones close to the middle were not like that. They had been damaged, ruptured from the inside, their contents spilling out. That looks like Clade Behrman cells, Cassie said. It's MRSA, Benji explained, destroyed from within by nanoparticles, each one like a little bullet, summoned to its target by precise coding. The micromachines knew what to look for given each bacteria's particular electron charge. Like homing missiles, Sadie said. Yes, just like. It was Cassie who caught up first. You're not talking about using these nanoparticles to understand the Walker phenomenon. You're saying, swallowing hard, Benji shook his head. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, I don't follow, Sadie said. Cassie answered. Benji thinks that this is not a phenomenon to be fixed by nanoparticles, but rather caused by them, he said. You're saying that these walkers are infected with nanotech? It's not impossible. We've long accepted nanotechnology as a potential fix for disease, to counter cancer, to help temper the coming post-antibiotic age. But what if it went the other way? What if something used them to design a new disease? A pathogen that is a machine, Cassie said, mouth agape. That sounds utterly barking mad, Sadie said. Maybe it is, but it is an option we have to consider. Those destroyed MRSA bacteria perfectly mirror the destruction of Clade Behrman cells. Except, Sadie said, the focus of the nanoparticles you're talking about was narrow, a single bacteria type. In Behrman, and presumably the other walkers, the particles would affect a much broader range. Precisely. Imagine 1 million little nanobullets ripping through every conceivable type of cell in the human body all at once. Benji brought both his hands together and then exploded them out, mimicking one of the walkers detonating like an exploding melon. Each cell going off like dynamite. But does that explain all the other bizarre behavior? Their inability to be hurt? Their tireless march? The fact they don't eat or shit or urinate? I don't know. This is not a realm I understand well, Sadie said. Then we better understand it quickly if we're going to use it to reassert control away from Homeland Security. Regrettably, I don't think this helps us at all in that regard. What? Are you serious? Deadly so. Listen, if this is true, and God, I hope it's not, then this isn't just some fluke of nature. It's not a mutation or some known disease or some pathogen that jumped from birds or a heretofore unknown parasite. This is something someone would have designed. It would be exactly as Homesec claims, an attack on us by an enemy, an intruder, and it would make the walkers intruders too, in a way. And it's not like the CDC is equipped to understand this. We are behind the curve when it comes to this kind of technology. Cassie leaned in. So, do we tell them? Benji hesitated. He felt their eyes on him. The responsible, the responsible thing would be to share this theory, cuckoo as it sounded, with Loretta, with Wayland, so that they knew what they might be up against. Just the same, it was still only a theory, and one that he was not yet willing to stake his professional reputation on. Further, with Sadie by his side and perhaps some introduction to Firesight, the company owned by Benix Voyager, maybe he had an opportunity to make headway on it where the others would not. where others would not. Most important, he was not yet willing to label the walkers as what Wayland believed them to be: weapons, enemies, monsters. No, he declared finally, not yet. Not until we have something solid. A little voice whispered, but by then, could it be too late? We don't tell them, and we don't tell anyone. This stays among the three of us. What about Arav? She asked. Keep him out of it for now. He's young, and if we're wrong, this won't impact our careers. His might still remain intact. The other two nodded. Good. Now let's figure out how to prove or disprove this thesis. He told Sadie to put in a call on the Firesight, because he didn't have a lot of time. Boom! End of chapter 27. Connect 4. Grinning while squinting. He drives pigs into the ocean? That reminds me of Happy Gilmore. I eat crap like you for breakfast. You eat crap for breakfast? Well, you know, it's more vulgar. Bork, bork, bork. Sorry, I had to run by. No problem. And I was missing Twix Sparks. She's barking. We'd like me to clip for you. Bork, bork. Runs by again. State pooper. Yeah. Soldiers, hype. All of us are hammered? Some of the green and popping corpses are people. Sorry, not answer. I had to be a non-horrible teacher and look away from my phone for a bit. I'm good without clipping. I'll probably watch the VOD later to catch up on the story, so I'll hear Borks then, but thanks. Barking mad. Yay for barking. Hey, A-Rox, how's it going? Thanks for the claps. Class 4, second unheard chapter. My god. How does she know? Besides, looking at chat. Yeah. I hope you're doing well, A-Rox. Thanks for popping by. My can is sweating. Yeah. My water can. Cool. You need gamer goo. Well, my water can surely does need gamer goo. Let's move on, shall we? Chapter 28. Brightness and Nowhere. Glory Tobin. Pronouns. She, her. Age 32. Mixed media artist and gallery owner from Naperville, Illinois. I know that place. Traveling with shepherd Brody Tobin, her brother. Brody said, Glory is a gifted artist, and I hope one day we'll find out this is all one really big, really weird flash mob. Hashtag people of the flock. At flock tracker 42. 57 replies, 122 retweets, 147 likes. July 3rd, Lone Tree, Iowa. One second. There we go. I had to burp the baby. I apologize. Here we go. I want to reposition this. I guess I can reposition. There we go. July 3rd. Lone Tree, Iowa. The camera phone felt heavy in Shayna's hand. Yeah. Have I been saying Shayna or Shauna? I don't remember. I think I said Shayna. Thing was, though, the device had never felt heavy before. It always felt light, airy, like it was a limb, as natural as all the others. It did not feel light today, but they were just doing what they did every day. She and the other shepherds marched with the flock. The flock grew daily, so did the shepherds. Some had taken to calling them all, the flock and the shepherds, pilgrims. Sometimes in a mean way, sometimes not, but always as if they were on a proper spiritual journey. But Shayna hated that idea. She didn't like that it made them sound religious or something. It also suggested that they were going somewhere, when clearly, out here in the corn and the soy and the waving wheat, they were going nowhere. She pointed the camera phone, let it drift across the marching souls. The heaviness of it, she decided, was emotional weight. Every day now she snapped maybe 5, 10, 15 shots, more if she could manage it, and after her encounter with Donna Dutton, she never did them up close, not anymore. It felt like every photo added tangible weight to the camera, like she was capturing something important, or maybe something she wasn't supposed to capture. It wasn't that the photos were great or anything. Shayna figured she was a middling talent at best, but all the faces, all the places, all the clouds and the roads and the trees, all the people waiting with signs, all the news choppers that sometimes flew overhead, to her it felt important. It felt heavy. Not like she was the only one capturing this stuff, though. Everyone had out their phones now, taking Instagrams or posting to social media sites like Twitter, provided they can get a signal. The hashtag people of the flock was big, and so was hashtag sleepwalkers. Shayna didn't look at them much. She was here. Worse, people online were generally shitty, and the hashtags just attracted trolls and haters and bots, people who wanted to see the walkers quarantined or dissected, or just shot in the head and dropped in a mass grave. She asked her father to drive up ahead a little bit so she could take some shots from the front, which was trickier now that they had so many other shepherds in play. A dozen vehicles at the front, another dozen at the back, but he managed to get the beast up along the side of the road so she could stay ahead of the flock. Dad said at the time, "Maybe you'll be a photojournalist one day." "I don't know," she said. "And that's practically what you're doing now." "Maybe," she said. She didn't want to think that far ahead, though. It just made the camera feel even clumsier somehow. She feared the attention, or maybe she feared wanting the attention. Dad started to say that maybe she could turn this into a book someday, and she just barked at him. "I don't want to talk about this, so just leave me alone and let me do my thing, okay?" He nodded and smiled and went back into the beast, and he eased ahead at the slow crawl that all these vehicles manage. Soon he'd lead the pack to go on a food run. That's usually how they did it. One group would take a vehicle and drive on ahead to the nearest town to stock them provisions. It had gotten strange out there, though. People in town weren't happy to see the shepherds anymore. Some got into fights or threw things. Yesterday, a group tried to buy supplies and found themselves run out of the store, chased by an old woman with a baseball bat. She tried to clip one of them, too, but missed and knocked over a rack of Coca-Cola, leaving some cans popping and fizzing as the woman yelled. So, as her father pulled the beast ahead, Shayna remained there on the side of the road, feet planted in broken asphalt. Camera up, panic kept at the margins. Shayna watched the world through her screen. The sky was the color of fading denim. Wind rustled the corn and the soy. It moved the hair of the walkers, too. It made them look a little like a field of grass, almost. A small tinge of chaos allowed to a group forced into the same posture, the same steady gait, the same dead nail stare. The walkers numbered over 300 now, closer to 350, she'd heard, though the flock itself looked much bigger given the presence of the other shepherds. Shepherds wove in and out of the flock, tending to their people, and others still traveled alongside the flock, on the edges of the road, not unlike real shepherds moving their flock of sheep or herd of cattle, she imagined. She pinched to zoom. She saw Mia combing Matteo's hair, cigarette hanging so precariously out of her mouth it looked stuck to the bottom of her lip. Click. She saw a big-thighed black guy on a rat-trap bicycle pedalling up alongside the shepherds. He was sweating, handing out iced teas and sodas, and even some ice cream sandwiches that were starting to melt. He rang the bell as he went, da-ding, ka-ching. She knew his first name only. Tibor. She thought it was. Tibor or maybe Timor. Shit. Click. Click, rather. She saw a pair of dogs chasing each other. Anna, dogs! A Springer Spaniel and a Pit Bull. The Spaniel's name was Bucko. The Pitty's was Egghead. The rings around his eyes looked like dorky eyeglasses, and the two of them chased each other with delight, clashing like Godzilla wrestling with King Kong. Crash, bash, drool, smash. Bucko belonged to Sandy Rosenstein, whose engineer husband was in the flock, and Egghead belonged to the Brewer family. who were here shepherding their mother, Bella. They were the first of the flock's dogs, but she felt they really wouldn't be the last. Click. She saw the sun-gone liquid in the windshield of a GMC Yukon driving forward slowly with the rest of the pack, and as the vehicle eased forward, the glare on the glass deadened and she could see a couple in the front. That was Carl and Marie Carter, two shepherds whose daughter, Elsa, a mid-20s pharmaceutical rep out of Indiana, walked to the flock. Carl and Marie were fighting right now. Shayna couldn't tell about what. It was all just wide eyes and serious brows, all yelling mouths and angry gesticulations. Those two didn't fight at first. They seemed sad about their daughter, but happy to be here with her, to be with the other walkers. But time was not kind, Shayna knew. The fear, the pressure, it was all serious shit. And some people just couldn't hack it. Those two couldn't. They fought all the time now. One would leave soon, Shayna guessed, and you both would, and they'd abandon their daughter because it was easier on them to do so. People did that, and Shayna understood it. She hated them for it, though, too, because how could you? How could you leave your family? Click. She saw someone walking toward her now. Arav. He had an iced tea in his hand. She focused on it with the phone screen, saw the condensation gleaming there, dripping down the side of his hand, slicking the palm and his pinky, which he held out like he was a fancy dude drinking fancy tea. As he closed in, he went out of focus. Click. Hey, he said, getting closer. Hey, she said as he came near. She tucked the camera into the pocket of her jeans. His hand reached out, found hers, their fingers hooked around each other's, pinkies around pinkies, thumbs around thumbs. This was all they did. They hadn't done anything else yet. No kissing, no anything else. He handed her the iced tea. Lipton. I brought you this. Thanks, she said. Share it? No, all for you. Her only regret was that they had to unbraid their fingers for her to take the drink. But take it, she did. It was cold and invigorating. I like seeing you with your camera out, he said. She shrugged. Just taking your advice, dude. I also like seeing you in the general. A faint blush rose to her cheeks. She fought against it and lost. What are you up to? Shouldn't you be off solving all the mysteries? I don't know. He sighed. We're in a holding pattern, I guess. Something's going on, though. Dr. Ray, Benji went into a meeting with that homesec guy. Wayland. Yeah. I hate him. I'm not a fan either. It wasn't that Wayland did much. Mostly he just wanted the flock like he was in charge, eyeing them all up like a grumpy Walmart manager, but also like he hated them, all of them, shepherds and flock alike. He wore his disdain for them like a uniform. Shayna knew through Arav that Homeland Security was looking to take over the flock and boot the CDC investigators. She asked him, "You think they're ready to take over?" "Maybe. I hope not." New panic seethed inside her. If that's the deal, what happens to us, to the shepherds? Arav could only shrug. I wish I knew. What happens to you? I guess I go. I guess we all do. She shook her head. No way. Fuck that. I won't go. I won't leave my sister. I won't leave Nessie behind. I made her that promise and I'm sticking to it. We'll figure it out. We'll find a way. Even the hot summer sun couldn't stop the chill that ran through her. She'd tear it all down if they tried to take her from her sister. Suddenly, not only did her camera feel heavy, but so did the handgun in her backpack, the one Zig gave her. She still had it, loaded and ready to go. I'm sure they won't do it today, Arav said, sounding to her like he was trying to force a chipper attitude. It's a holiday, or almost. Tomorrow's the 4th of July. He nodded. It is. So today's the 3rd. That's usually how the calendar works. Smart ass, she said with a hint of a smile. Then, assuming that linear time is still in working order, looks like I have made another journey around the angry ball of fire in the sky. What? I'm 18, dude. It's my birthday. Happy birthday! Like Summer's birthday. His face brightened for a moment before darkening anew as he looked down at her iced tea. Iced tea is not a good present. It's great. I love... In the distance, something caught her eye. Movement by the front of the flock. By her sister. God damn it. What? Arav asked. There. She saw that woman. The one with the buzzsaw haircut and the scars on her head. And the lumberjack body. The one who supposedly took down that gun-wielding crackpot back in Indiana. That bitch was there by her sister, running a brush through Nessie's hair as they walked together. No. Oh, hell no. Shayna said, forcefully foisting the iced tea off on Arav before breaking into a run. She bolted toward her sister, and as she got closer to the flock, she started yelling to the woman, "Hey, hey! Get away from my sister!" The woman's head jerked up. Shayna skidded to a halt about 5 feet away. She moved herself into parallel to her sister, all the while snatching the hairbrush out of the other woman's hand. "You leave her alone." "I was just brushing her hair, Shayna." "Who told you my name?" "You did." "I did not." She felt suddenly flustered. "And if I did, that doesn't mean you have permission to use it." "But it's your name." The woman held up both hands. "I'm sorry. I saw you hadn't been out to your sister yet today. I know you like taking photos and being with that young buck from the CDC, so I thought I'd help." "Ew, are you some kind of stalker? I was just busy, okay? I was busy taking pictures and I would have gotten to brushing her hair and everything, all right?" She really hadn't been out to see her sister yet today. This was the first day in weeks she hadn't made it part of her routine. Why? Because she wanted to go take photos? Stupid. It's none of your business. You leave us alone. Now Arab caught up, panting as he did. Well, thanks, Twix. And here came Mia, too, trailed by a few other shepherds, Aaliyah among them. Suddenly, their voices rose against the woman. What was her name again? Marcy? Marcy Reyes. "Marcy, you can't be coming up in here messing with one of the walkers," Mia said. "Not Nessie, not any of them." "It's a family thing," Aaliyah argued. "A bonding thing." A shepherd in the back, might have been Lucy Chow, said, "Did she say bondage?" "Bonding," someone else corrected. Marcy offered a sad smile. She held up both her hands as if pleading. "It's just the glow is strongest here at the front. Your sister burns bright, like a star going supernova. I can hear it too, like an angel's song." "Okay, Mrs. Cray Cray," Mia said, stepping between Marcy and Nessie. "Time for you to go take a walk, you cuckoo bitch." "I'm not crazy," Marcy said. "I don't think I'm a bitch. I mean, I guess I might be sometimes." "Shoo, get out of here. Go bother someone else. You ain't got nobody here, and nobody here got you." With that, Marcy nodded and walked off, finding her way to the shoulder of the road, and standing there as the flock and the shepherds passed her by, Shayna watched her go. Fact: Marcy Reyes was weird. Okay, maybe that wasn't a fact, but it sure felt like a fact to Shayna. Yes, the lady maybe saved them by finding that redneck chode and making him shoot himself in the ass, but that didn't earn her a place here. The shepherds didn't have a code exactly, but the thing of it was, you were expected to be here for a reason. And that reason was, you had a person on the inside, someone who walked with a flock, a sister, a mother, a little brother, a best friend, geez, even a neighbor, someone, anyone. But Marcy didn't have anyone. She was just here. Because she said they all glowed, which again was fucking weird. Didn't help that she said it was with this kind of culty gleam in her eye, this crazy pants reverence. She said that the walkers were angels. Shayna knew they weren't angels. Angels weren't real. What was real was her sister and all the others, and making them angels made them not people. And to hell with all that. They were people. Not glowy angels, not weapons, not part of some political agenda, not victims of some terrorist plot. They were people. Why they were walking, she didn't know. How they got this way, she didn't know. And at this point, Shayna didn't much care. She cared about her sister. That was it. So to hell with Marcy Reyes. Even though, yeah, okay, sometimes Shayna felt bad for her, because she didn't have anybody. Because she didn't have anybody meant, well, she didn't have anybody. Nobody was on her side because they all agreed she was kinda weird. Marcy slept in the back of people's pickup trucks at night or during the day when they let her. She paid her way in gas, so people said. There were other stories too, like the ones that said before this she was a shell of a person, one who got beaten half to death by some gangbangers who jumped her. They pulped her skull, but she didn't die, so they had to rebuild her head. Hence the scarring. But that didn't explain why right now she felt fine. Again, story went that Marcy said it was the walkers, the glowing angels, made her feel better, which admittedly wasn't the weirdest thing ever. No, that would be the walkers themselves, but it still made Nessie and the others seem inhuman, like they were some magic or shit. Or some shit. They weren't magic. They weren't anything. They were just people. Weren't they? Most of the crowd had died back, leaving Shayna with her sister, and with Arav and Mia, who remained. Shayna brushed her sister's hair, admittedly a little too roughly, but she couldn't help it. And a darker voice inside her said, "Not like Nessie can complain anyway." Accompanying that was a sudden urge of anger about her sister, where Shayna screamed inside her own head, "Wake up, wake up, wake up!" That anger did not come alone, of course. It came accompanied by what was now the third wave of guilt. Then, hey, why not more anger? Anger at her father for not getting out of the damn RV to brush Nessie's hair. Anger at Marcy for stirring the pot. Anger at Dale Wayland for making her feel anxious that she might be taken from her sister. And for the kicker, anger at herself for everything under the sun. Shit. Where'd she go? Arav asked, talking about Marcy. Who cares, Mia said. Good riddance. Good riddance. Lady's kind of a freak show. Maybe she can't help it, Shayna said. What, you're defending her now? No, she can go eat dirt for all I care. I'm just saying she seems kinda, I don't know, fucked up. Crazy people don't mean to be crazy. Mia waved it off. Whatever. She seems in control of her faculties, and whatever to me. Besides, whether she controls it or not, I don't want to be around it, and you don't mess with another shepherd's walker. They're not property, Arav said. That earned him a sharp look from Mia, and a curious one from Shayna. Where's he going with this? Nobody said that they're our property, Shayna said. Yeah, Ravi, Mia snapped. I'm just saying family is people. People you love and people you love are people you love. Marcy has no one here and shouldn't, grab on like she's a fucking fangirl or some shit. Maybe, Arav said. She's just trying to find her people. Mia sniffed. Go find them somewhere else, I say. I don't have people here. Not really. Do I not belong? Shayna reached out to Arav. That's not what she means, and you know it. It's not what she means, and you know it. Her hand sought out his, but he pulled away. I'm a brown-skinned man in America. I know what it's like to not belong. Maybe cut her a little slack, huh? Suddenly he bristled. Doesn't matter. Who knows how long we'll be here anyway. With that, he turned heel and headed off in the opposite direction from Marcy Reyes. What the hell was that about, Mia asked. I don't know. It's nothing. You two having a spat? We're not. It's not a spat, and we're not. We two. He's him and I'm me, and that's that. Oh, psst, come on, girl. You and he have been all hand-holdy and shit. She fluttered her lids and lashes. Oh, Arav. Oh, Shayna. Let's hold hands. Should we kiss? No, we mustn't. I'm too young. You're too old. It's just like some real Romeo and Juliet bull business. Except, if Romeo and Juliet sucked really, really bad. Nice. Mia blew her a kiss. Shayna was about to explain that she and Arav were from two different worlds anyway, and he wasn't really even a shepherd. And, by the way, she was now 18 years old now, so how old she was didn't really matter anyway. Thank you very much. And maybe just once Mia could take her nosy nose and stick it up her own ass for once instead of everybody else's. But she didn't get to say it. The sound of an engine cut her off. It was distant at first, the sound of a dragon rumbling awake. It growled through the ground, up through her feet, and into her teeth. What's that shit? Mia asked, raising her voice to be heard. Shayna didn't answer. She gave a bewildered shrug. Louder and louder it came. Now she could pinpoint from where. Behind them, coming up fast too. She could feel it in her chest. And then, like that, here came a motorcycle. A Harley Fat Boy. Cherry red with fire-eyed skulls painted on the side. On it sat a bony Jack Skellington-looking dude. Arms out, head back, mirror shades reflecting the acid-washed sky. An acoustic guitar hung from the strap on his back, and lashed to the seat behind him was a black leather duffel. The dude drove up to the head of the flock, pulled the motorcycle over, dropped the kickstand, and hopped off. Fetching his bag, he gave the bike a grumpy kick, and it fell over with a bang. The look on his face was one of churlish pride. The pride of a child who just took a hunk of a dump from his diaper and gleefully painted the wall with it. That guy looks familiar, Shayna said. He should, Mia said. Why? That's Pete Corley. Who? Mia just shook her head. Shit, now you're making me feel old. Waylon was hovering. Benji sat inside the trailer, and Sadie was outside, supposedly on the phone with Fireside. Waylon was in here like a test proctor, monitoring students for cheating. It made it hard for Benji to continue digging into his nanotechnology theory. He attempted to throw caution to the wind and continue to do the research full-facedly in front of Dale Wayland, believing wholly that the man who was too much of an ape to suss out what Benji was looking at. But he also knew it would be a mistake to underestimate him. So instead, he continued to look over Clade Behrman scans, the eruptive, concussive tears in so many of his cells. He used the Black Swan sat phone to do it, not using the projectors, but keeping the images on the screen. Wayland said, That the device? I'm sorry, Black Swan. That your access to it? Benji hesitated. It is. So it's not bullshit. It really works. Before Benji could answer, the phone pulsed green, answering Wayland's question. It does, yes. HomeSec should have access. You do, through the CDC. Did the man really not know this? Black Swan had already enabled the FBI and Homeland Security to intercept a handful of crises. We should have direct access on site. Okay, if you say so. Wayland sauntered over, chest puffed out, chin up, looking down the barrel of his nose. Let me see this, he said, reaching down and grabbing the Black Swan phone out of Benji's hands. Benji didn't resist, though he knew the phone was made of nigh unbreakable glass. Just the same, he didn't want to get into some preschooler pissing match with this oaf. The kind that might cause the phone to be dropped or damaged. Let him look at it. You can just ask me next time, Benji said. Ask? Ask? Huh. And here I thought you belonged to the do whatever the fuck I want club, you know, Longacre. I take your meaning, yes. You know, I'm gonna relish kicking your ass off-site. I don't like you, and I damn sure don't trust you. You want real talk? You're just like Hunt. Prevaricating agenda hound. She's a politician's politician. She'll say what she wants and do what she wants to maximize her advantage, just like you with Longacre. Doesn't matter what's true, as long as you keep playing your game. He leaned in closer and affected a low, threatening voice. And Creel's America won't be room for people like you, just loyalists, truth tellers. Benji shrugged. I suppose I'm not surprised you're a Creel supporter. I am a little surprised you knew the word prevaricating, though. Wayland's hand shot out and grabbed Benji by the jaw. His grip was tight, and the man's face contorted into a rictus of anger. Dale snarled, You With that, a beam of light emitted from the Black Swan phone, striking him right in the eye. He cried out, blinking, the phone fumbling from his hand and into Benji's lap. Fucking fuck, Wayland said, swiping at the air in front of him as if he were blinded by a particulate matter and not a beam of powerful light. It's still a little buggy, Benji said. Sorry about that. Wayland stood his ground, blinking. When his eyes seemed to adjust again, he thrust a finger at Benji. You're an asshole. All Benji offered in retort was an amused shrug. The trailer door opened behind Dale Wayland. In it stood Cassie, who waved Benji outside. He stood casually and walked past Wayland and said in his own low voice, If you ever touch me like that again, I'll press charges, because, thanks to Black Swan, I have our entire exchange recorded and saved. You do your job, I'll do mine. He wasn't sure that what he promised there was true. He had no evidence that Black Swan was recording all that it saw, though it was clearly listening to everything and spatially aware. Certainly the fact that the machine intelligence seemed to come to his defense there indicated not merely that Black Swan was intelligence, but also that it had a personality. But that was a problem for another time. Now he was about to have a whole different problem. Once they were outside, away from the trailer, she said, What was going on in there? Wayland giving you shit? As Wayland is wont to do. What's up? I just spoke to Timpson in Florida. Harvey Timpson, the chief pathologist working on the Garland case. Florida required a local pathologist to do autopsies. But Timpson was working with the CDC on it. Benji knew him a little, met him at a couple of conferences. Good guy, if a little antisocial. Please tell me someone didn't steal the body. No, she said. No, it's his brain. Garland's brain? What about it? The fungus, it's in there. Like tree roots pushing through soft dirt. He sighed, looking out over the walkers moving toward them on the horizon. I suppose it's to be expected. Soft tissue that's accessible through outside cavities could play host to a fungal colonization. She pulled the image on her phone and showed him. This isn't that. He took a long look. She was right. He pinched and zoomed in, saw that the threads of the infection penetrated deep, like the roots of a plant. Yes. Like a kind of circulatory system. He pointed to the swollen, turgid tissue around those mycelial threads. This looks like inflammation. Yeah, it created an intense inflammatory response and scarring. And that would only happen if Garland were alive, meaning it did not happen post-mortem. This was officially a fungal infection. I think Garland was infected for months, she said. Go on. When she spoke, he could hear her voice trembling. Cassie was tough. She'd seen it all. So if something was scaring her, it was scaring him too. She let out a deep breath and said, FBI did a deep dive in his family life, his business relationships, everything. Turns out he'd been acting real fucking squirrely. Symptoms of dementia, erratic behavior physically, mentally, emotionally. He had also suffered cold symptoms. Normal cold virus, not necessarily influenza or pneumonia, or anything more serious. More like a proper cold, or maybe an allergic response, and given the inflammation in the brain and elsewhere in his body, that tracks. When did it start? Not long after an event in San Antonio. The grand unveiling of some Garland Gardens park down there. He did some showy explosion to break ground, but he opened up a cave system. A cave system? Benji's stomach sank through the floor. He feared he knew where this is going, and given who he was talking to, an expert in veterinary health who knew zoonotic vectors like she probably knew her own mother, it explained her fear. Bats. He released bats. Got it in one. Cassie opened up a video on his phone. It was just a 10-second clip, but the attack was plain to see. Garland stood on a stage in front of a crowd as thousands of small bats swarmed him and everybody else. Mexican free-tailed bats, she said. Garland seemed to manifest symptoms 2 months after that day. We looked at the biology of the fungus colonizing him. It's remarkably similar in biology to both Pseudogemascus destructans and Ophidamyces ophidicola. His heart began to do double time. She meant respectively that the infection that had affected and maybe killed Jerry Garland was alarmingly similar to the fungus behind white nose syndrome in bats and snake fungal disease in, well, snakes, both of which were dread killers of both bats and serpents nationwide. The fungus was opportunistic, savaging the bodies of the animals it infected. Snakes suffered sores on their scales, bats had their wings degrade, and some studies suggested that white nose fungus, named as such for the way a white powder crusted around the creature's muzzle, also affected the bat's echolocation abilities. The bat stopped being able to find food, and with the damage to its wings, stopped being able to fly. Mortality rate in snakes was at 100%. Bats had a better shot, but not by much. In the affected populations, mortality was closer to 90%. Just the same, it had already killed millions of them, over 6 million bats dead, last he heard, mostly of the little brown bat variety. You're suggesting a zoonotic jump. A pause. Yeah, that's bad, Cass. It's real bad, Benji, and again, I had to say it. It gets worse. How? We found 3 others who have died. 3. Alright. Deep breath, Benji. Were they in contact with Garland anyway? Indirect contact only. They were present on the day of the groundbreaking ceremony, all 3. He heard her ruffling papers. Jesse Arvex, Greg Rooney, and Tim Bauer were not only present, but also confirmed to have had contact with the bats. 2 of them had rabies shots as a precaution. Okay, his head spun. This could be good news. 3 is, well, 4, including Garland. 4 dead is regrettable, but that's a low number. He hoped that this was more like influenza. If this was zoonotic, well, most infectious diseases that made the zoonotic jump from animals to people established a beachhead, but not much more. 4 dead, a small number, he told himself. Still, the Spanish flu of 1918 started humble too. That flu emerged first as a mild strain in the spring of that year, but by late summer had mutated into something far worse. By the end of its run, it had killed 40 million people, more than those dead in World War I. He hoped this disease, with the 4 dead, would remain at that number and not suddenly lurch forward, a pathogenic overachiever. He continued, sounds like it's not a person-to-person. It's bats, and in bats, it's incredibly infectious. 1 bat in the colony gets it, they all get it. Right. We're trying to rule that out now, but with the hope that it follows the pattern of being non-infectious after the jump, maybe we're in good shape. It struck him that thinking of only 4 dead after a fungal infection jumped from bat to person as in good shape was particularly psychotic, but once again, that was part of the cross he and the other medical professionals had to bear. Bedside manner aside, it was all too easy to view this world of his in a cold clinical manner. Numbers and data. He tried to look beyond that with Longacre, and the result was a wretched one. But maybe what happened with Longacre was too overt, too sweeping. He went too big with it. Maybe it was time to think, well, smaller. This could be good news for us, he said. I don't follow. Bear with me, he winced, hating that he was even suggesting this. Cassie, we know Homesec wants to kick us to the curb. Yeah, so? I can take this to Loretta. She can take it to Flores, who can take it to Hunt. We can get ahead of this thing, maybe stay on the job a little longer. At least until I see if my theory regarding nanotechnology is correct, he thought. But this fungal thing doesn't seem to connect to the Walker phenomenon. There's no bridge. You know that, and I know that. Oh, but they don't know that, she said. Exactly. It buys us time. We already have it documented that we were considering fungal and parasitic vectors. Given that Black Swan pointed us in the direction of uncovering Jerry Garland, we can use that. And we can also hope we have successfully gotten ahead of whatever it was that Black Swan was warning us about. This isn't Longacre all over again, is it? He swallowed. I hope not. I understand if you don't want to go along with it. I'm using you as my check here. If you say not to do this, we won't do this. You wished I had come with you to Longacre. Well, here I am. I'm tired and on edge, and I may not be the best judge. Let's do it. You sure? No, not at all, but with this flock, we are in wildly uncharted territory. Waylon and his goons won't like it, but that's fine by me. I say fuck 'em and kick it up with the chain boss. I will, Cass, and let me know if you find anything else. Can do. Another pause. Hey, are you okay, Benji? For real. No, he said. I'm not. Are you? Not really. Then let's be not okay together, and hope equally for a better day. I can drink to that, Cassie said. A rumble rose, like an engine coming from far off, but closing in, Cassie and Benji shared a quizzical look. Both of them turned in time to see a man roll up on a Harley-Davidson, red like blood and covered in skulls. The lanky man had like a rock and roll scarecrow. Kicked over the bike that he didn't give a damn about it. The lanky man, like a rock and roll scarecrow, kicked over the bike like he didn't give a damn about it. Then he wanted to flock, like he owned the place. That's Pete Corley, Cassie said, mouth agape. Pete Corley? The Gumdropper guy? I swear that's him. I've been to a couple festival shows where they played. He used to be a madman, a real rock star. The kind they don't make anymore. Benji watched all the shepherds catch on to the fact. He could see the recognition in their eyes dawning as the man stepped toward the crowd. They peeled away from the flock to greet him. Some refused to get close, gawking at a distance. Others rushed up to beam and gape and shake his hand. And he looked as natural as anyone could be in such a situation, like this was perfectly normal for him. Benji didn't care much for the Gumdroppers' music. They were huge in the 1980s when he was a kid. They were kind of half glam rock, half pop punk, like some monstrous hybrid of Aerosmith and the Ramones. Benji grew up on hip-hop and R&B. Anything from Public Enemy to Boyz II Men, Run DMC to Usher. These days he forgot to listen to music, not like Cassie who hid under the comfort of her headphones 5 minutes out of every 10. But when he did listen to something, it was John Legend, Alicia Keys, maybe some old Motown records. But not caring much for Gumdropper didn't mean he didn't know who they were. They weren't as big as, say, the Stones or the Beatles, but they had a good 20-year run of dominating rock and roll. The band did their share of big stadium events, plus a Super Bowl halftime show. Every few years, they popped up again, an appearance on late night TV, a new single on iTunes, talk of some new album that never manifested. Corley was a known raconteur and rabble-rouser. Had his troubles with the law, destroying hotel rooms, going wild on coke binges in the 90s, or there was that stunt on New Year's Eve in 2000 where he rushed the Times Square stage where Britney Spears was performing. Thing was, he always seemed to escape consequence for those actions. Everyone loved it. Even in 2000, Spears first looked shocked and then warmed up to him, and next thing the world knew, he helped turn Oops, I Did It Again into some guitar-grinding rock star mashup. What a spectacular asshole, Cassie said. I kind of love him. Why is he here? Best guess, he's looking for attention. He saw where the news cameras were pointed and decided to jump in front of them. And it worked. Already, Benji could see some of their embedded reporters rushing toward him. Guys, here came Arab, hurrying toward them at a fast clip. Guys, you need to see this. We've seen, Benji said. Pete Corley, we know. That's not it, Arab said. Half out of breath, he fumbled with his phone and pulled up a live stream of MSNBC. It froze, the wheel turning, signal out of here is the Heartland wasn't just half-assed, it was 1/4 ass at the best. Maybe 10% of ass and all shit. Finally, the video auto played. On the screen, Benji saw military vehicles, U.S. Army troop carriers. His first question was, where are they being deployed? But then he saw the Chiron at the bottom. Riverside, Iowa. It explained why Waylon has been so cocky. It's happening. What time is it? Benji asked. Just after 3 p.m., Arab said. That meant they were ramping up this early. On the screen, the scrolling Chiron at the bottom asked if President Hunt was finally taking decisive action on a sleepwalking phenomenon. On the handheld screen, he saw 3 troop carriers, at least a dozen soldiers each. They were already pouring out rifles over shoulders. Benji felt every cell in his body go rigid as his mind played out one of many possible scenarios. Troops rolled in, guns up, and shepherds resist. The media watched as two sides clash. Best case scenario were busted heads and blood on the asphalt. Worst case, someone opened fire. Were there any firearms among the shepherds? He'd never seen any, but it also wasn't his place to check. They had only had a middling police presence, and further, were they even checking? He imagined not. This was a potential powder keg. Shit, he said. He needed to call Loretta. Now. End of chapter 28. Yeah. All right, let me catch up. I don't think I have a lot to catch up on. You gonna go all over your can? Heh. Wow. Self-burping the baby. Yeah! Excuse me for my very rude and lewd behavior. All these protesters in a small town like this. Thank you for knick-knacking. Twix Bork sound effects would be interesting new sound effects. And a dogs. Crash, bash, drool, smash. Dogs are the best. What the flock? Yay for doggos. Living your life like an angry Walmart worker. The dream. The hot summer sun shining on soldiers' shoulders, said Shasta. Get the flock away from my sister. So I don't know much at the moment, but apparently the soldiers' shoulders are a big part of the chunk of the book. Twix claws, bark, bitter batters. Soldiers' shoulders aren't actually mentioned in this. Bondage. Then where's that coming from? From the Narnia books. Yep. I like to write S words that were difficult to say together, like soldiers' shoulders, said Shasta. And a couple of times when Tara read shoulders or soldiers, he added the other word with it. Family is people. Hey, Mystic. Thanks for listening. Thanks for shouting out Mystic and Arox. I appreciate it. Doing things full-facedly. I should reread the Narnia books. That does sound vaguely familiar. I think it was from like A Horse and His Boy. Or something like that. I do things but full-faced. My Mystic. Tara read through those books a while ago. It's true. The gasps, fungal bats, being not okay together hype, ooh taco. Percentage of ass, very important to calculate. A dozen soldiers' shoulders. It's true. Alright, we're coming up on the last chapter of the day. It's only about 8 pages, so it shouldn't take me too long. So yeah, it'll be great. And I can have dinner. That'll be great too. They basically say both words. They basically did say both words that time. It's true. It's like they knew. Alright, last chapter of the day. Chapter 29. Yes. When talking on the guns, they're talking about the guns on the shoulders. They knew. How? How did they know? I don't understand. Chapter 29. We eat what we hunt. When I hunt to kill. That's a line from Stone Cold Steve Austin movie. I believe it was called Hunt to Kill. And he says it right before he drives his ATV into like some explosive barrels, which then winds up blowing up the bad guy and his ATV. Spoiler alert. Stone Cold wins in a movie where he's the hero. Anyway, we eat what we hunt. Or maybe he shoots at it. I don't remember. I just know it blows up. We eat what we hunt. What we're talking about here is potential 6 extinction. We've had 5 such events in the historical record where species die off at an accelerated rate, and that's what we're seeing now. Vertebrates are dying off at 100 times the expected rate, and we're only just now getting a grip on how bad it is for invertebrates. A study in Germany showed that up till 75% of their insects have disappeared since 1989. Notice how driving down the road you get fewer bugs splattered on your windshield, or how you don't see as many fireflies anymore? Welcome to the sixth extinction. In this video, we'll discuss what that means for the world and for us. Afterward, don't forget to click like and subscribe. Carl Jung, a science writer and broadcaster for the PBS Zero Hour YouTube channel. July 3rd, Echo Lake, Indiana. Once again, Pastor Matthew was thrown back into the fray with only a plate of food to fend off the conversation. Not that he necessarily wanted to, he enjoyed being the center of things for once. It felt good. It felt necessary. Lord, it felt right. He felt like a man buoyed by a raft on the ocean. He flowed this way and that from the patio back inside the house to where lots of folks gathered around a massive dark cherrywood bar that wrapped around a tree trunk pillar in the center of the room. The drinks, a sour bourbon punch now with the oaky kick of whiskey and the tang of lemon and orange, flowed like a river after a strong rain. Matt kept looking around, though, trying to find his son or his wife or even Ozark. Eventually he spun away from one group, which included an actual bona fide astronaut. And while dancing halfway to another, he found himself bumping into Roger. He said, "Hey, Roger," and found his words looser on his tongue than he'd like, lubricated, he feared, by a bit too much to drink. "You seen?" But Roger shushed him. He held up something in his hand, a remote control, and then pointed to a flat-screen TV that hung above the bar. The screen came on big and bright. The sound was down, so Roger cranked it, and it didn't take long for it to push back against the din and clamor of the crowd here talking. They shushed as the TV took over. And here Matthew looked around and idly thought how strange it was for people to turn toward the glowing box with such strange reverence in their eyes. It hypnotized them. A television in any room did that to him. 2. That's why he hated eating out at a restaurant they put a TV on in the corner. He always found himself and his son staring at it, transfixed, like they were stealing a little devotion away from God and giving it to this damnable rectangle of light. Damnable rectangle of light. Still, what could he do? He turned to the box and tuned in. Roger didn't have to change the channel to Fox News. The station was there as soon as the TV came on. They were showing video of how some armored troop carriers, one of the newscasters said they were U.S. Army, mobilizing soldiers near the Sleepwalker flock in Iowa. Again, Matthew turned his eye toward the other people around him, a strange thing to do, maybe, and a thing maybe driven by whiskey fuzzing up his brain. He could see the eyes pointed to the TV, the flicker of motion on it captured in their eyes and their drink glasses. Then he caught movement off to the side. Ozark Stover, standing there with his son and his wife. Ozark was giving Autumn something, and she was nodding. Bo, for his part, just stood there, staring at the TV like everyone else. It was a small moment in time, seemingly unimportant, practically over before it began, but Matthew caught it, and it stuck between his teeth like a stringy piece of gristle. Ozark looked over at him, then gave him a small smile and nod. Autumn didn't look. She just took Bo and made a beeline for the front door, even as Ozark cut through the crowd toward Matthew. The pastor didn't know where to go, meet Ozark or follow his wife and his son to see where they were going. It was in this indecision he rooted his feet. Which was, in a way, a decision all its own. Stover stood next to him. He lifted his big bearded chin toward the TV. "Hell of a thing." "It's good," Matthew said. "I suppose." "Fuck that," Ozark said, if you can excuse my salty tongue. "I don't follow. Isn't it good what Hunt's doing?" "It is, and any time Hunt does something good, that's bad for us. Creel pushed her, and she yielded, which made her look weak, maybe, but it also makes her look like she's gotten tough on those freaks." He sighed. "Still, I'm sure Creel will call her on her hypocrisy. It's all in the messaging." Matthew swallowed. His mouth was suddenly dry. Why was he afraid to ask Ozark about his wife and his son? "I saw you talking to Autumn. Did she leave?" She is leaving, yes." "Did she say why?" "Tired, I think." His mouth formed the words to ask Ozark about what he gave Autumn, but no sound came out. He resolved to ask Autumn about it later. By now, Roger had turned the TV off and was thanking everyone for their patience, and with that, the crowd snapped into high gear. From them came the roaring murmur of all them talking about what they'd just seen. Ozark, in the meantime, looked down at the plate in Matthew's hands, a plate that once upon a time held half a rack of ribs, but Matthew had done a good job at whittling it down to just bones. The big man said, "I'm glad you like those, preacher. That's from a feral hog I killed here on the property. Around here, we eat what we kill, always. Use all parts of the animal, down to the pig's feet jelly, head cheese, soap from the fat. He plucked one of the bones from Matthew's plate and popped it in his mouth like a lollipop. He suckled it and pulled small ribbons of meat off the rib. You missed some, preacher. Grab a bone and keep eating. Oh, that was the end of chapter 29. I guess I misread when the next chapter ended. So I'll actually have one more chapter. As the next one's pretty short too. And that'll put us at about 50 pages again. I knew it. I knew as soon as I was messing up on shush, Riddy would wind up putting them all together. Along with a bunch of other words. I am free, there is now sound. I'm glad that you're free and there's sound. Welcome back with sound, thank you indeed. Shasta shushed him. Shushed the soldiers sauntering slowly with summer sun spilling sweetly across their shoulders. Okay, I'm done. Way to go, Riddy. Thanks for the claps. I appreciate it. We're going to get right on to the next chapter. The real final chapter. For real. Not for play. Which is only a few pages long. Chapter 30. Dun 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 dun. Under pressure. Pressure. Police launch probe into mysterious death of Richmond professor. By Roberto Spidel. Richmond Times Dispatch. Police are attempting to understand the mysterious death of local media and communications professor Greg Rooney. Rooney, 46, was found naked in his bathroom, covered in blood from having taken a shaving razor to his face and throat so vigorously he opened his own jugular. The coroner has suggested he bled out due to this, but could only speculate why the man would or could do such a thing. Toxicology reports found no drugs, but the coroner noted that many bath salt and so-called smart drug formulations have yet been cataloged for tox screens, so they could not be ruled out. Rooney, divorced, was not found for days, and by the time his body had already been colonized by a white fuzzy fungus. July 3rd, Lone Tree, Iowa. I think you should go, Arev said. Shayna watched the flock walk, oblivious to everything. The shepherds, though, weren't oblivious. They were just paying attention to the wrong thing. They were crawling up the ass of Pete Corley when they should have been freaked out because the military was mounting up the troops some 10 miles away. I'm not going anywhere, she said, her jaw set, fist firm. This could get bad. Nessie's here, so I'm here. Shayna, I'm just concerned. Go do your job, Arev, and I'll do mine. He chewed a lip. You're mad at me. Maybe you're mad at me. That doesn't make sense. Look around you, Arev. Nothing makes sense. Why start now? Go. Be with your team. You have work to do, so go do it, dude. She stormed off to catch up with her sister. I can't do it, Loretta said. Benji paced at the back of the CDC trailer. The team listened to the call on speakerphone. Arev, Cassie, and Sadie were an audience to the call. Loretta, with all due respect, if this thing with Garland is connected, then we need time to have to try. I'm to understand that Madam President is already on her way to the press conference. These horses won't go back in the barn. She paused. Not today. I can put your recommendation into the pipeline, and maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week, ES will be back on site. With Homeland gone? With the soldiers shipped away? I can't speak to that. He wanted to throw the phone. Loretta, listen to me. Homeland Security is a blunt object. Even the name galled him. Homeland Security. Everyone has gotten so adapted to it, they forgot it sounded like something out of 1984. Motherland, fatherland, homeland. These were to him, implicitly, un-American ideas, words antithetical to the mishmash hodgepodge of humanity that made up the citizenry of these United States. Loretta, these people, the shepherds, they are devoted. They don't deserve to be sent away, and neither do we. I said I'd put it in the pipeline. At the other end of the line, she gave an exasperated sigh. Benjamin, I respect your work on this. You've done well, despite my better judgment. But it may be time to come back to Atlanta. The invitation is open if you want to remain with EIS. Loretta, the connection with the fungus. I understand you want to see that connection, but I'm not convinced of it. And honestly, you're smart enough. I suspect you're not convinced either. And you're just trying to stall. I've recommended that Cassie head up the EIS investigation studying the Garland case. Vargas has had another couple of weeks of recovery, and then that will head back out into the field with Arav, Thevlar, and a new team. And me? You'll come home and work with Black Swan. We have decided your work there is exemplary, and we require a liaison to bridge the efforts of the BNEX Voyager with the needs of the CDC. I'm not hearing this, Loretta. What's going on here is bigger than all of that. You know it, and I know it. Don't try to move me from this, Benjamin. The immovable object has spoken, he half expected her to say. Just put this in the pipeline, please, he said, then we'll see. Yes, we will. Trey. The call ended. The team sat there watching him. They'd all been listening. Benji chewed a fingernail. They watched him, silent in the shadow of his near palpable frustration. To Sadie, he said, Did you talk to Firesite? I did. They intend to send someone down tomorrow. We won't be here tomorrow. He heard the edge in his voice and struggled to soften it. He bit a piece of his fingernail off, and it pulled into a hangnail. A little red blob of blood inflated at the sight, and he quickly sucked it away. I don't know what to do. We're DOA here. Arav showed them the news on his phone. Already he knew the troops were mounting. How soon would they be here? Too soon. Cassie sighed. I don't want to be reassigned. The Garland case deserves due attention, Benji said. Loretta is right, and you're the best to head up that investigation. We may need to evacuate the shepherds, Arav said. Might be better to start now rather than... But nobody listened to him. He noticed it. Hello? Is anybody... But then Arav's voice trailed off because he heard it too. Outside, Benji heard the murmur of the crowd and the strumming of a guitar. It was a familiar song, one of the Gumdropper's early hits. Maybe. But he couldn't place it. Idly, he asked, What song is that? They turned to listen. Arav said, Is it Guns N' Roses? Cassie hissed at him. No, this is not GNR, kid. It's Gumdropper, Sadie said, quite definitively. In fact, it's Full Steam Ahead off the album Engineer Without Forms. 2 bits of trivia. First, that it was a concept album from 1989 based off The Gunslinger by Stephen King, featuring songs like Different Seasons and Mohaine Desert. Second, that this version we're hearing is not the version from the album, but rather the more up-tempo version that the Gumdropper played at stadium shows, and that showed up on the BBC live recording. They had a second King tribute album in 2000, their last full studio album, but it kind of sucked. You're a Gumdropper fan, Benji asked. Like you would not believe, she leaned in. I have a small steamer trunk full of Gumdropper bootlegs. Is he really out there? Pete Corley? The Pete bloody hell motherfucker Corley? He is. Manic glee flashed in her eyes. I'd love to meet him. Yes, well, and he was about to say, that's not really our priority. But then he realized maybe, just maybe, it was. He turned to Arav. Arav. Dr. Ray, Benji, do me a favor? Oh, what's that? Go and bring him in. Who? Pete Corley? Yes, Arav, Pete Corley. You're sure? He thought about it. I am. Corley sat at one end of their small conference table. Benji, Ray at the other. Everyone else, Cassie, Arav, Sadie, stayed off to the sides. They had to draw the shades to stop shepherds and the media from looking in. The rockstar legend leaned back, feet on the table. He pulled out something that looked like a robot's idea of a magic wand. May I? May you what? Benji asked. Smoke. Not that it's smoke, it's vapor. Then when Benji didn't respond, Corley waggled his fingers. Ooh, vapor science. He regarded Benji's stone-faced glare, then petulantly put the vaporizer away. Guess not then. It's not healthy, you know, vaping. Healthier than smoking. Shooting yourself in the leg is healthier than in the heart, too. Doesn't mean I would recommend doing it. Corley sniffed. So that what this is? Check up with my doctor? Want me to put my balls in your hand, turn my head, give a cough? In his voice, Benji could hear that Irish lilt. The one that lifted his voice in ways and places Americans and even Brits didn't. No. I'll tell you what it is. You're a big man in charge here, the big boss with the red hot sauce. You don't like me being here? I'm an irritation. Oh, what's the John McClane line? A fly in the ointment, Hans? A monkey in the wrench? I don't need your permission to be here, though, do I? Benji leaned forward, drumming his fingers on the table. I don't like celebrities. They tend to be narcissists, created by and reinforcing a whole system of narcissism, self-reward, and solipsism. All the way down. Corley said, like he was thinking about it. Big words, but I'll cop to that, Doc. He smiled big and bright, even with that mouthful of slightly fucked up teeth. I do love being me. And I suppose it was inevitable that one of you would see the Sleepwalkers as an opportunity, a spotlight that had dared turn toward something that wasn't you, God forbid. Natural then that you would come here to extend your life cycle of fame, or perhaps you're here running from something, I don't know. Crowley's smile soured to a frown. So now this is therapy, is it? No, against all my instincts, against every bone in my body, it is me asking you for a favor. Okay, I'll allow it. You say I'm the man in charge, but that's not necessarily true, and after tonight, it won't be true at all. Right now, as you and I speak, President Hunt is preparing to go on television and announce that she's going on outside the trailer what's going on outside the trailer will be under the boot of Homeland Security. The CDC will be summarily removed. Soldiers, army men and women that are again right now gathering less than 10 miles from here will swarm the site and attempt to boot all of us, politely at first, but by force thereafter, I would guess. Crowley swallowed hard and sat forward. There it is, Benji said, snapping his fingers. The realization is hitting you now, isn't it? Whatever opportunity you thought you saw here is going to go, well, to vapor. Poof. Unless what? Here's where the favor comes in. I'm listening. You go out there and stand with those shepherds, claim solidarity, fake it if you must, get yourself all up in those camera lenses and tell them what's coming. Soldiers, forced ejection, brutality, blood on concrete, and heads knocked in, and all that nasty business. But tell them that you'll stand with them. You demand President Hunt rescind her order and grant protection to the good shepherds of the flock and to the CDC who has governed here. You're deranged. Moments of silence stretched out, then Corley's face stretched to a jack-o'-lantern smile. And I like it. You'll do it? First off, what do I get out of it? You get to stay. This train keeps on rolling, full steam ahead. I see what you did there, Doc. And I approve of everything that stokes the fire of my, as you say, narcissistic tendencies. Alright, I'll do it. You want me to go out there now? Bring in the ruckus, as it were? Now, yes. Pete Corley stood up, which was like watching a closet full of broomsticks animating all at once under a sorcerer's spell. Done and done. With that, he headed over for the door, guitar in hand, grinning like a jackal. After he left, Sadie said, I think I'm pregnant with his baby. Benji gave her an amused, if-word look. You owe me, Cassie said. It took every urge in my body not to ask him about gumdropper trivia. It hurt me. It hurt my soul, Benji. Thank you, Cass. Think it'll work, Arab asked. I have no idea, Benji said. Probably not. But when you're about to go off a cliff, you grab hold of whatever you can to keep from falling. End of chapter 30. And the stream. Took about as long as I thought it would. About 2 hours. Bowdo Terror is reading off the really talking to us. Oh, thanks. Such serration? A soldier's such serration? It's not word I like it. They were doing it at the end of chapter 29. It's a good word, yeah. Uh-oh, evil book. Taylor was just sniffing my back and it felt so cute. Aw. Aw, shoot, I gotta try. Thanks for reading stream later, everyone. Okay. I know you already left, but be safe. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Be safe. Hangnails are annoying. They sure are. There's the pitter-patter of puppy feet a little bit. Shepherd shades. New tongue twisters. LOL, shooting yourself in the leg is being healthier. Faking stuff. Hype! Class for chapter 30 and class for stream. I'm sad it's over, but I'm happy I caught some. I'm happy you were able to catch some too. I appreciate you being here even when you weren't able to hear it. When that's like the main thing of the stream. Puppy Potter patters. She didn't move very far. She like solely moved to her pillow and then laid down on it. But yeah, I appreciate you hanging out. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that came for any amount of time. I do know what you meant. It's just silly. That's all. And you know that I just read things as I see them. As best as I can. Often I do not read them correctly. But yeah, I hope everybody had a good time. I hope anybody that listens to this in the future enjoyed this entry. Don't know when I'll do this again, but it was good to get another 5 or 6 chapters out of the way, another 50 pages done of the book. And that's cute. Taylor's pitter-pattering it a bit for you now, to make up for the fact that you missed out on Twix puppy pottering. And yeah, I hope everybody stays safe and stays healthy. All my best wishes to everybody. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you. Is HS streaming now? Because we can just go and raid her if people are up for that. Or I can just host. That works too. She is streaming now. So yeah, we'll raid HS. It'll be a great time. I feel bad for going over her time for about 40 minutes, but hopefully she'll understand. And yeah, we'll just do like it's Terra time, then whatever emote you want to use with it. So yeah, thanks for joining everybody. I appreciate y'all so very much. And I will do the buy command.
Oh, we are the boys in chorus. We hope you like our show. We know you're rooting for us, but now we have to
Alright, let's do that raid. And thanks again, everybody. I appreciate y'all so much. It means a lot to me to have you all here. And now we wait for the raid to take off. See ya at HS's stream. Bye.